Every year, thousands of people vanish. Most are eventually found, alive, hurt, or sadly deceased. But a few leave behind nothing, no blood, nobody, no trace. Just unanswered questions and a chilling silence that echoes through time. These are the disappearances that stop investigators in their tracks, the kind that leaves experienced detectives haunted for decades, people who are just like us, on vacation, heading home, grabbing coffee, and then, simply, gone. How does someone vanish in an age of cameras, satellites, and 24/7 surveillance? How do families keep living without answers, without closure, without a grave to mourn at? In this documentary, we delve into numerous unsettling disappearances, real lives interrupted by the unknown. From the highways of America to the shores of Europe, from cruise ships to passenger planes, these stories share one common thread: they vanished without a trace. And in many of these cases, even the seasoned investigators admit they have no idea what happened. Some believe foul play, others suspect the victims simply walked away. But for every theory, there's a contradiction, and for every clue, another mystery. You'll hear the facts, you'll see the timelines, and by the end you may start to wonder, if they could vanish so easily, could it happen to anyone? In March 1998, 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley embarked on a tropical vacation with her family aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean cruise liner bound for the Dutch Caribbean. The Bradleys were a close-knit family from Virginia, and this trip was meant to be a celebration. Amy had just graduated from university, was working in computer consulting, and had recently moved into her own apartment. This was her reward, but within 24 hours of setting sail, Amy would vanish without a trace. Somewhere between the early morning hours of March 24th and sunrise, she simply disappeared from the ship. No signs of struggle, no farewell, just silence, and questions that would torment her family for decades. On the night of March 23rd, the family spent time dancing at the ship's nightclub. Amy was seen enjoying herself, especially with members of the ship's live band, Blue Orchid. Witnesses reported seeing her dancing with a band member named Yellow, Alistair Douglas. By 1:00 a.m, Amy and her brother Brad returned to their cabin. Amy stepped onto the balcony for some air. Brad saw her there before falling asleep. By 6 a.m, she was gone. Her shoes were in the cabin, her cigarettes too, but no sign of Amy. Her parents, alarmed, began searching the ship themselves. They begged the crew to delay docking in Curaçao, but the ship disembarked passengers anyway. It was a decision that would haunt the investigation from the start. The initial investigation was chaotic. Authorities hesitated to treat the case as a potential crime. Amy's family, however, was adamant. Amy wouldn't have jumped. She was a strong swimmer, an experienced lifeguard, and besides, her plans back home were solid. She had a new job waiting and had recently adopted a puppy. The idea of suicide didn't add up. Then came the sightings. A Canadian man claimed he saw a woman matching Amy's description on a Curaçao beach days after her disappearance. She was with several men and appeared distressed. Over the years, more witnesses would report seeing a woman who looked like Amy in various Caribbean locations. But every time authorities followed a lead, it ended in a dead end. The most chilling tip came in 2005. A US Navy sailor stationed in the Caribbean claimed that, while visiting a brothel, a woman grabbed his arm and whispered, "My name is Amy Bradley. Help me." He didn't report the encounter until years later, when he retired from service, out of fear. Investigators couldn't verify the claim, but it revived a terrifying theory. Was Amy kidnapped and forced into human trafficking? Experts in the field pointed out patterns. Multiple women had been abducted from cruise ships and later found to be victims of trafficking. Amy's story suddenly fit that disturbing narrative. Yet no evidence, no surveillance footage, no physical trace could ever confirm it. Amy remained a ghost in plain sight. Over 2 decades later, Amy Lynn Bradley remains missing. Her family has never stopped searching, offering a $250,000 reward for information. They believe she's still out there. In a world filled with vanishing points, vast oceans, foreign cities, corrupt systems, Amy's case is a warning. A vibrant young woman disappeared aboard a luxury cruise ship. No one saw what happened, no one has been held accountable, and no one has been able to bring her home. Her case is still active, still open, still frozen in time. In March of 2000, 23-year-old Leah Roberts disappeared on a spontaneous cross-country road trip that was supposed to represent healing and self-discovery. A free spirit and writer, Leah had suffered heavy losses. Her mother died of illness, and shortly after, her father passed too. She dropped out of college and spoke of finding deeper meaning in life. Inspired by the writings of Jack Kerouac, Leah packed her Jeep Cherokee and left Durham, North Carolina, without telling friends or family. She said she needed space to figure things out, but 9 days later, her abandoned Jeep was found wrecked in the mountains of Washington state, nearly 3,000 miles away, and Leah was nowhere to be found. Leah's Jeep was found deep in the wilderness off a logging road near Bellingham, Washington. It had apparently crashed through a stand of trees at high speed, suggesting the driver wasn't trying to stop. But oddly, there was no blood, no trace of injury, just her belongings left behind. Her cash and jewelry were still in the car. Investigators found no footprints, no drag marks, no signs she'd left the vehicle injured. The scene raised more questions than answers. The seat was reclined as if someone had slept there. A ticket stub from a movie in Bellingham was found, dated days after she was believed to have crashed. Had she left the scene voluntarily, or had someone else been driving? Leah was last seen at a gas station in Brooks, Oregon, smiling at the cashier. Her debit card had been used to buy gas and a meal in Northern California shortly before. But once in Washington, things got murkier. The movie ticket showed someone saw American Beauty just hours before the crash. Had Leah made it to Bellingham, or was someone impersonating her? A witness later reported seeing a man and woman at the crash site acting suspiciously, and investigators found that a crucial wire had been cut in the Jeep, making it impossible to drive safely, suggesting foul play. But without Leah or physical evidence, everything remained speculative. The investigation stalled. There were no solid leads, no ransom demands, and no evidence of suicide or voluntary disappearance. Leah's family believed she was either abducted or had trusted the wrong person along her journey. Forensic experts noted strange inconsistencies: blankets placed neatly in the car, items untouched despite the crash. If Leah had survived the accident, why hadn't she reached out for help? Was she living off-grid, or had she been taken before the crash occurred? Over the years, tips came and went, a woman matching Leah's description seen in shelters, diners, or hiking trails, but none ever confirmed. She had simply vanished. More than 2 decades have passed since Leah Roberts vanished. To this day, no trace of her has been found. No digital trail, no confirmed sightings, just a wrecked car in a remote forest and a life paused in mid-motion. Her family continues to search, driven by a mix of hope and heartbreak. In many ways, Leah became a reflection of the very journey she idolized. Kerouac's open road, filled with freedom, but also with shadows. Was Leah's disappearance the result of a tragic accident, a calculated crime, or a deeper choice to walk away from everything? We may never know. But one thing is certain, Leah didn't just disappear. She left behind a mystery that still echoes through the pines of the Cascades. February 14th, 2000. Asha Degree was just 9 years old, a bright, well-loved 4th grader from Shelby, North Carolina. That night, as a storm rolled in and her family slept, Asha quietly packed a backpack, opened the front door and walked out into the dark. She was last seen by 2 passing motorists around 4 o'clock a.m., walking alone down Highway 18 in the rain, over a mile from home. Hours later, her parents discovered her bed empty. Panic spread. Why would a child with no history of behavioral issues or trauma just vanish into the night? Her case would become one of the most haunting child disappearances in American history, still unsolved, still unexplained. When investigators began searching, clues came slowly. There were no signs of forced entry at the Degree home. Asha had packed her belongings with intention, even taking school supplies and her favorite clothing. Search dogs tracked her scent to the roadside, then lost the trail. Days later, her pencil and hair bow were found in a shed half a mile away, suggesting she may have sought shelter, but no one reported seeing her enter or leave. How did a child plan and carry out a nighttime escape so quietly? And why? Her family had no history of abuse. Her life was stable. Her backpack, her shoes, and the storm-racked road told part of the story. But Asha herself had vanished. Witnesses later reported seeing Asha walking along Highway 18 in the early morning. One driver turned around to check on her, but she ran off into the woods. That was the last confirmed sighting. For over a year, the trail went cold. Then, in August 2001, her backpack was found buried inside a trash bag off a rural highway 26 miles away. Inside were her belongings, untouched. This discovery changed everything. If Asha had run away, who buried her backpack? Investigators released sketches of suspicious vehicles seen that night, but no arrests were ever made. The deeper they looked, the more chilling the mystery became. Someone may have lured her, or worse, been watching. As years passed, Asha's story became a symbol of cold case urgency. Her parents never gave up, holding prayer walks, pushing for renewed investigations, and speaking publicly. In 2020, the FBI revealed that new leads had emerged, including reports that Asha may have been seen getting into a vehicle that night. They offered a $45,000 reward, but progress was limited. No forensic evidence, no confirmed suspect. A child's intentional departure in the middle of a stormy night, with no plan, no support system, and no technology, remains a terrifying anomaly. Theories range from grooming to abduction to an unknown psychological episode, but none explain everything. More than 2 decades later, the disappearance of Asha Degree is still an open wound in Shelby. Her parents leave the porch light on every night. "We're not going to let her be forgotten," her mother said. She would be in her 30s now, perhaps a mother herself, but to the world she's still frozen in time as a smiling 9-year-old who walked into the dark with a backpack and was never seen again. Whether she ran away or was taken, one truth remains: children don't just disappear. Someone knows what happened to Asha Degree, and until that person speaks, her story remains one of the most heartbreaking mysteries in modern America. May 25, 1979, 6-year-old Ethan Patz walked out of his family's Soho apartment for the very first time to catch the school bus alone. His parents had finally allowed it, just 2 blocks to the bus stop. But Ethan never arrived. By that afternoon, panic had set in. Police swarmed the neighborhood. Flyers went up overnight. Ethan became one of the first missing children to appear on milk cartons, changing how America viewed child safety forever. His disappearance triggered a nationwide conversation about trust, danger, and how quickly innocence can be stolen. But what exactly happened on that short walk? And why did no one see it? Ethan had taken that route before, with his parents. That Friday morning, he wore a black Eastpak backpack and a pillbox of toy cars. But somewhere between his front door and the corner bus stop, he vanished. No struggle, no scream. Just a silent disappearance in broad daylight. Authorities launched one of the largest missing child investigations in New York history. Search dogs, helicopters, door-to-door interviews. Thousands of leads poured in, but none materialized. There were no known enemies, no custody battles, no ransom notes. Ethan had simply walked out of his home and never returned. His case would become a national obsession and a growing mystery. Years passed, and suspicion shifted. In 1982, a drifter named Jose Ramos, a former boyfriend of Ethan's babysitter, emerged as a potential suspect. He had a disturbing history and admitted to being with a boy that matched Ethan's description. Though never charged, Ramos remained a central figure in the case. Ethan's parents pursued civil action, and in 2004, a judge declared Ramos responsible for the child's death. Still, nobody was ever found, and no criminal conviction followed. For decades, the case remained officially unsolved. In 2010, investigators re-excavated the basement of a neighborhood handyman, yet again finding nothing. Ethan had vanished into the city's depths, without a trace. In 2012, the case took a stunning turn. Pedro Hernandez, a former bodega worker in Soho, confessed to luring Eaton into the basement of the store and killing him. He claimed it was a spontaneous act and said he disposed of the body in a nearby alley. But Hernandez's confession raised red flags. He had a history of mental illness and there was no physical evidence. After a lengthy trial and despite a hung jury in 2015, Hernandez was retried and ultimately convicted in 2017. Many believe justice was served. Others remain skeptical. With no body, no witnesses, and only a decades-late confession, doubt still lingers over what truly happened to Eaton. Eaton Patz's disappearance left a legacy far greater than one family's tragedy. It reshaped how missing children were handled in America, prompting the creation of the National Hotline, the milk carton campaigns, and the observance of May 25th as National Missing Children's Day. For his parents, who kept his room untouched for decades, the loss was incalculable. "Eaton will always be 6, his father once said. Though Pedro Hernandez sits in prison, the full truth remains murky. Was it really him, or did the real story vanish along with Eaton on that spring morning in 1917? Decades later, the question still haunts the streets of Soho and the conscience of a nation. On December 1st, 1946, Paula Jean Weldon, an 18-year-old college sophomore from Bennington College in Vermont, set out for what was supposed to be a routine solo hike on the Long Trail, a rugged 272-mile footpath running the length of Vermont's Green Mountains. Known for her independent spirit and love of the outdoors, Paula told friends she would only be gone a few hours, but she never returned. What began as a simple day hike turned into one of the most baffling disappearances in American history. Despite massive search efforts and national attention, Paula vanished without a trace, disappearing from a well-trodden trail in broad daylight, leaving behind more questions than answers. Paula was last seen near the Mohawk Trail Road, entering the dense woods on a sunny December afternoon. Despite the cold weather and shortening daylight, she was reportedly confident and well prepared for the hike. When she failed to return that evening, a search was immediately launched involving hundreds of local volunteers, police officers and forest rangers. Yet no trace of her was found. No footprints, no belongings, no sign of struggle. The harsh Vermont terrain made the search difficult, but experts believed it unlikely she could have wandered far without leaving evidence. As days turned into weeks, theories about what happened multiplied. Was she lost? Did she fall? Or was something more sinister at play? Despite extensive search operations, including aerial reconnaissance and bloodhounds, the wilderness yielded no clues. Local residents and hikers reported hearing strange noises in the days following Paula's disappearance, but none were confirmed. Some speculated she might have encountered a wild animal or slipped and fallen into one of the many hidden ravines along the trail. Others raised the possibility of foul play, though there was no concrete evidence. Her family endured heartbreak as they watched their daughter's case grow cold. The disappearance captured national headlines and led to new protocols for missing person investigations, especially for hikers and outdoor enthusiasts venturing alone. The mystery of Paula Weldon's disappearance left an indelible mark on Vermont. The state established its first full-time missing persons unit, partly in response to the public outcry over her case. Over the years, there have been occasional tips and reported sightings, but none confirmed. Some theorists believe Paula chose to disappear voluntarily, starting a new life far away. Others think she was the victim of an unknown predator, taken before she could raise an alarm. The truth remains elusive. The Long Trail still calls hikers with its beauty and danger, but Paula's story serves as a cautionary tale about the risks of solitary adventures in the wilderness. More than 75 years later, Paula Weldon's disappearance remains a haunting enigma. Her name is etched in the annals of unsolved missing person cases, a symbol of the countless individuals who vanish without a trace. For her family, the lack of closure is a lifetime wound. For the world, her story is a solemn reminder that even in peaceful, familiar places, mystery and danger can lurk. As hikers pass the spot where Paula was last seen, they carry her memory with them, hopeful that someday answers may come. Until then, the Long Trail keeps its secrets, and Paula Weldon's footsteps echo silently through the Vermont wilderness. In early March 2014, Chris Kmers and Lzanne Frun, two 21-year-old friends from the Netherlands, arrived in Panama seeking adventure. Both university students, they were eager to explore the renowned cloud forests near the small mountain town of Boquete. Their itinerary included hiking the Cherapunta Trail, a challenging path through dense jungle and steep terrain. On March 1st, the women set off together, fully prepared with backpacks and supplies, expecting a day filled with discovery and breathtaking views. But their journey would end in mystery and tragedy. When they failed to return by nightfall, initial concern turned to alarm. The thick, unforgiving jungle swallowed all signs of them, leaving behind only fragments of their belongings and baffling questions. How could two young, capable hikers disappear so completely in a popular tourist area? As hours passed with no sign of Chris and Lzanne, a desperate search was launched. Local police, volunteers, and even the Panamanian army scoured the jungle, combing ravines, rivers, and thick foliage. Near a creek, rescuers found a trail of personal items, a backpack, shoes, and water bottles, soaked and abandoned, suggesting the women may have encountered difficulties. More disturbingly, their smartphone and digital camera was recovered with cryptic pictures, capturing moments of fear, confusion, and exhaustion. These fragments painted a grim picture. The two friends were lost, struggling against the harsh jungle environment. The area's steep slopes, slippery rocks, and powerful rivers posed deadly hazards. Yet, despite the intensive search and technological aid, the women's fate remained unknown, sparking widespread speculation and fear. In the weeks following their disappearance, search teams found scattered human remains, clothing and shoes, fragments too incomplete to form a clear narrative. Forensic analysis showed signs that some bones may have been moved after death, possibly by scavenging animals, but some findings raised questions about the timeline and cause of death. The last phone data placed Chris and Lzanne moving erratically through the jungle, sometimes crossing rivers and climbing steep ridges, suggesting they were disoriented and desperate. Locals and experts debated theories. Did the women suffer a fatal accident, succumb to exposure and dehydration, or fall victim to foul play? Reports of mysterious sightings and unconfirmed encounters with strangers near the trail added eerie layers to the case. The dense Panamanian jungle, beautiful yet merciless, guarded its secrets closely, leaving the full truth tantalizingly out of reach. The disappearance shocked both Panama and the Netherlands, sparking an international outcry and calls for improved safety for hikers in remote locations. Families and supporters pleaded for answers, while authorities vowed to keep the investigation open. The case highlighted the risks of hiking alone or in unfamiliar terrain without experienced guides. It also underscored how quickly nature can overwhelm even well-prepared adventurers. Despite extensive efforts, including analysis of phone data, witness statements, and multiple searches, the exact circumstances of Chris and Lzanne's final days remain unknown. The Panamanian jungle, lush and vibrant, also proved to be an unyielding labyrinth, hiding many unanswered questions beneath its thick green canopy. Years after Chris Kmers and Lzanne Frun vanished, their story remains a poignant reminder of the fine line between adventure and danger. Their families keep hope alive, yearning for closure that has yet to come. For those who knew them, their disappearance is a wound that will never fully heal. For the world, it is a chilling tale of how even the most prepared travelers can be overwhelmed by nature's unforgiving power. The jungle still stands silent and vast, guarding its mysteries in the shadows, and though Chris and Lzanne's footsteps have long since faded, their story endures, a haunting testament to the unknown that lies just beyond the edge of the trail. Joe Keller was an experienced and avid trail runner living in Utah, known for his endurance and love of the outdoors. On August 22, 2015, Joe set out on what was supposed to be a routine run along the rugged paths of Logan Canyon, a beloved local hiking and running destination. A married father of 2 young children, Joe was in excellent physical condition, familiar with the area's challenging terrain. Yet, after he left home that morning, he never returned. His disappearance stunned the community, sparking a massive search and a haunting mystery. How could a skilled runner vanish without a trace in an area he knew so well? The trail Joe took was remote, winding through steep cliffs, thick forests and rocky outcrops, a beautiful but unforgiving environment that would soon hide its secrets deep in the wilderness. When Joe failed to return or answer calls, his family reported him missing, triggering an extensive search operation involving local law enforcement, search and rescue teams, and volunteers. They focused on the steep, rocky sections of the canyon, known for sudden drops and dense undergrowth. Searchers found scattered clues, Joe's shoes and a water bottle near a treacherous ravine, suggesting he may have fallen or been injured. But despite hours spent combing the rugged landscape, no direct trace of Joe was found. The GPS on his running watch last pinged near a narrow, difficult section of the trail, where terrain and weather could turn deadly in minutes. The community held its breath, hoping for a miracle, while authorities faced the grim possibility that nature had claimed yet another victim. Experts pointed to several potential explanations for Joe's disappearance. The canyon's unpredictable weather could have caused him to lose footing, fall, or become disoriented. Nightfall and dropping temperatures added urgency to the search, as exposure posed a deadly risk. Despite his skill and preparation, Joe may have been vulnerable to natural hazards such as loose rocks, swift water crossings, or hidden ravines. Some speculate he may have become trapped or injured in a location impossible to access by rescue teams. Others considered more troubling possibilities, though no evidence ever suggested foul play. The rugged beauty of Logan Canyon, while enticing, is a reminder that even the fittest athletes are not immune to nature's dangers. Joe Keller's disappearance drew widespread attention, bringing together a community united in hope and heartbreak. Friends and family held vigils, appealing for any information that might lead to answers. Authorities continued the search for weeks, expanding their efforts to the canyon's less accessible areas, but the trail eventually grew cold. Over time, the case shifted from search and rescue to a somber missing person investigation. Joe's story became a cautionary tale about the risks inherent in wilderness sports and the unpredictable forces of nature. The canyon, a place of beauty and danger, remained silent, holding tight to its secrets. Years later, Joe Keller's disappearance remains a haunting mystery. His family cherishes his memory, holding on to hope while grappling with the unknown. The canyon trails continue to draw hikers and runners, many aware of the dangers Joe faced. His story stands as a poignant reminder that even the strongest among us can be vulnerable in the wild. The wilderness can be both a place of freedom and a place of loss, where the line between adventure and tragedy is sometimes razor thin. Joe Keller may never have returned, but his spirit runs on in the hearts of those who loved him, and in the silent trails of Logan Canyon, where nature's power is both awe-inspiring and merciless. Stacy English was a 35-year-old real estate agent living in Atlanta, Georgia. On December 4, 2011, she left her apartment in the morning, heading to work as usual. But that day, Stacy never arrived at the office. After missing multiple meetings and failing to respond to calls and texts, friends and family grew alarmed and reported her missing. Stacy's disappearance baffled everyone. She was an independent, responsible woman with no known enemies. The city launched a widespread search, combing streets, neighborhoods, and parks. Yet, despite extensive efforts, Stacy had simply vanished without a trace, leaving a haunting mystery that gripped Atlanta. Investigators pieced together Stacy's movements from security cameras and witness statements. Footage showed her walking in downtown Atlanta, but after that, the trail went cold. Her car was later found abandoned near a trail in a local park, but Stacy herself was nowhere to be found. The park was dense with wooded areas, making the search difficult and raising fears she could have met with foul play or an accident. Police worked tirelessly, following leads and questioning people who might have seen her. Yet, none of the clues provided clear answers. As the days stretched on, the case became one of Atlanta's most baffling cold cases. Stacy's loved ones refused to give up hope. Her family organized vigils and pleaded for information, while volunteers scoured the park and surrounding areas for any sign of her. Atlanta's weather at the time was harsh. Cold temperatures and rain complicated search efforts and cast doubt on Stacy's chances of survival if she had become lost or injured. Friends remembered Stacy as warm and dependable, with no apparent reason to disappear voluntarily. The community's concern only deepened as weeks passed with no sign of her, leaving a void filled with uncertainty and sorrow. Years later, Stacy English's case remains unsolved. Advances in forensic technology have been applied to the evidence, but no breakthroughs have emerged. Detectives have revisited the case multiple times, hoping fresh perspectives might unlock new leads. Various theories have been proposed: accidental injury, abduction, or foul play, but none have been confirmed. The lack of witnesses or physical evidence makes the mystery frustratingly elusive. Law enforcement continues to appeal for information, underscoring the importance of community involvement in solving cold cases like Stacy's. The disappearance of Stacy English remains a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring pain of the unknown. Her family and friends keep her memory alive, hopeful that one day the truth will surface. Cases like Stacy's highlight the vital need for vigilance, compassion, and persistence in the search for missing persons. Though decades may pass, the hope for answers and justice never fades. Atlanta still remembers Stacy English, the woman who vanished without a trace, and waits for the day when her story can finally be told in full. Rebecca Corium was a 24-year-old British crew member working aboard the Disney Wonder cruise ship. Known for her friendly nature and dedication to her job, Rebecca was responsible for children's programming, bringing joy to families sailing the seas. On March 22nd to Evan, during a routine voyage from Los Angeles to the Mexican Riviera, Rebecca vanished without a trace. Last seen on CCTV cameras wandering the ship's decks, Rebecca's disappearance sparked intense speculation and concern. The cruise ship, a floating city at sea, became the backdrop for a mystery that baffled the world. A young woman lost in the vastness of the ocean and corporate secrecy. After discovering Rebecca was missing, the ship's crew launched an immediate search of every deck, cabin, and confined space on the Disney Wonder. The Coast Guard was alerted and joined the search, scouring the surrounding waters with boats and helicopters. Despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of Rebecca was found, no evidence of an accident, foul play, or escape. The ship's closed-circuit cameras captured her walking alone, but gaps in surveillance footage left questions unanswered. The circumstances of her disappearance remain unclear, with the ship's layout and policies complicating the investigation. Rebecca's family was devastated and frustrated by what they saw as a lack of transparency from Disney and maritime authorities. They campaigned for answers, demanding a thorough and open investigation into her disappearance. Maritime law and the unique jurisdictional challenges of cruise ships complicated matters, with international waters limiting the scope of legal authority. Rumors and speculation swirled. Was Rebecca's disappearance an accident, a suicide, or something more sinister? Without definitive evidence, her story became a painful symbol of the risks faced by cruise ship workers and passengers alike. Over the years, investigations into Rebecca Corium's disappearance have yielded few concrete answers. Disney implemented enhanced safety and monitoring measures on their ships, but critics argue more needs to be done. Authorities continue to explore every possible lead, using forensic technology and witness interviews. Yet, the mystery remains unsolved. No body, no clues, and no clear explanation. The case highlights the difficulties of investigating disappearances on cruise ships, where isolated environments and corporate interests can hinder transparency. The disappearance of Rebecca Corium remains one of the most haunting maritime mysteries of recent times. Her family's search for truth continues, fueled by love and determination. Rebecca's story reminds us of the fragility of life at sea and the need for vigilance, safety, and accountability. Though years have passed, the hope for answers and closure remains alive, a beacon in the endless ocean, guiding those who refuse to forget her. The Disney cruise disappearance stands as a solemn warning and an unresolved puzzle, waiting for its final chapter to be written. On September the 20th, 1988, Tara Calico, an 18-year-old high school student and avid cyclist, set out on a routine bike ride near her hometown of Belen, New Mexico. Known for her independent spirit and athleticism, Tara was a familiar face on local roads. But that afternoon, Tara never returned home. her family reported her missing after hours of no contact. The quiet desert landscape turned into a desperate search zone as neighbors, police, and volunteers combed the area. Tara's sudden disappearance stunned the community and sparked a mystery that has endured for decades, captivating the public and puzzling investigators alike. Authorities quickly launched a large-scale search operation. They focused on the desert roads Tara was known to frequent, hoping to find any trace of her or her bicycle. Despite intensive efforts, no physical evidence or clues emerged. Days turned to weeks, and the trail grew cold. The harsh New Mexico terrain, vast, arid, and isolated, complicated the search and diminished hopes of finding Tara alive. Theories emerged from an accident to abduction, but with no witnesses or leads, the truth remained elusive. As months passed, Tara's disappearance became a cold case, but her family refused to give up hope. In 1989, a chilling development brought Tara's case back into the spotlight. A Polaroid photograph was found in a parking lot in Florida, depicting a young woman resembling Tara, with duct tape over her mouth sitting beside a boy. The photo sparked intense media coverage and public interest worldwide. Tara's family believed the woman was their missing daughter, but law enforcement remained cautious. Despite efforts to authenticate the photo and identify the boy, no conclusive evidence ever emerged. The photo remains one of the most haunting pieces of potential evidence in the case, symbolizing the lingering mystery and the pain of unanswered questions. Over the years, investigators have revisited Tara's disappearance multiple times, using evolving forensic technologies and fresh tips from the public. Despite these efforts, the case remains unsolved. The limitations of evidence, the remote location, and the passage of time have made solving Tara's fate extremely difficult. Community members and family continue to hold vigils, keeping Tara's memory alive and urging anyone with information to come forward. The case highlights the challenges faced by law enforcement when dealing with disappearances in vast, isolated areas, and the enduring pain of families left in limbo. Tara Calico's disappearance remains one of New Mexico's most haunting cold cases. Her family's unwavering hope for answers echoes through the years, a testament to love and resilience amid tragedy. While the desert winds carry whispers of the past, the story of Tara Calico continues to inspire those dedicated to finding missing persons and solving cold cases. Until new evidence comes to light, Tara's fate will remain a mystery, a haunting reminder of lives interrupted and the vital need for justice and closure. Brian Schaffer was a promising 27-year-old medical student at Ohio State University with a bright future ahead. On the night of March 31, 2006, Brian went out with friends to celebrate the end of spring break. They visited several bars before ending up at the popular Ugly Tuna Saloona in downtown Columbus. The last known footage of Brian shows him entering the bar through one of the main entrances. But just as mysteriously, Brian was never seen leaving. His disappearance stunned friends, family, and the local community, sparking one of the most baffling missing person cases in recent Ohio history. How does someone vanish without a trace from a crowded nightlife district? Authorities carefully reviewed the bar's surveillance footage, expecting to see Brian exit at some point that night. Instead, video shows him entering, but no footage captures him leaving. The building had multiple exits, including emergency doors, but none showed Brian's departure. Friends last saw him speaking and laughing inside, but recall he seemed distracted before vanishing. The bar was crowded and noisy, yet nobody remembers seeing Brian leave. Police launched an extensive search, interviewing patrons, staff, and checking hospitals, jails, and shelters, but found no trace. Brian's wallet, phone, and keys were never recovered, deepening the mystery surrounding his disappearance. Brian's family made emotional appeals for information, desperate for answers. Theories quickly emerged. Was Brian the victim of foul play? Did he disappear voluntarily, or was he involved in an accident? Investigators explored all possibilities, but no credible leads surfaced. Some speculated about a possible abduction, or that Brian might have left to escape pressures of medical school, but those close to him denied any signs of distress. The case remains cold, with no confirmed sightings or evidence to explain where Brian went or what happened that night. His disappearance remains a chilling enigma, haunting the community and those who knew him. Over the years, investigators have revisited the case using new technology and re-interviewing witnesses. They examined security footage frame by frame and reviewed reports of suspicious activity in the area, but came up empty. The possibility of Brian leaving through an unmonitored exit or being hidden in the crowd remains, but no evidence supports this. The bar's layout, the people inside, and the surrounding streets have been scrutinized, but Brian's fate remains unknown. The doctor who walked out of sight continues to puzzle law enforcement and keeps his family searching for closure. Brian Schaffer's disappearance is a haunting reminder of how quickly life can change and how some mysteries defy explanation. To this day, Brian's family and friends hold on to hope that he will be found or that answers will come to light. His case remains open, a symbol of the countless unsolved disappearances across the world. The story of Brian Schaffer, the doctor who walked out of sight, serves as a solemn call to never forget the missing and to continue the search for truth, no matter how elusive it may seem. Jennifer Kessie was 24 years old, successful and full of life. Living in Orlando, Florida, she had recently bought her first condo and was excelling in her job at a financial firm. On January 23, 2006, she spoke to her boyfriend on the phone just before going to bed. The next morning, Jennifer never showed up for work. Her absence was immediately suspicious. She was known for her reliability. Calls went unanswered and she failed to make contact with anyone. When her family couldn't reach her, they drove 2 hours to Orlando. Her condo was locked, her belongings inside. But Jennifer was gone. The case would quickly evolve into one of Florida's most perplexing cold cases, a woman who seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving behind no trace. 2 days later, Jennifer's black Chevy Malibu was found abandoned in a nearby apartment complex just 1 mile from her home. The driver's seat was pushed back, suggesting someone taller had driven it. Detectives found no signs of a struggle, no fingerprints, no DNA, only a single latent print on the car door. Surveillance footage from the complex showed a person of interest walking away from her car. But there was a problem. The footage only captures still frames every few seconds. In each frame, the person's face was obscured by a gate post, an eerie coincidence that has since become symbolic of the case's dead ends. The individual has never been identified, nor have they come forward. Investigators were left chasing shadows. As the days turned into weeks, theories began to swirl. Has Jennifer been abducted on her way to work? Was someone watching her? Construction workers had been doing repairs in her complex, and she had reportedly felt uncomfortable around them. Some theorized she may have been attacked while leaving for work, possibly kidnapped in the parking lot. Her phone, purse, and keys were missing, items she would have had with her, but they were never recovered. Without witnesses, surveillance, or forensic evidence, detectives were left piecing together fragments of Jennifer's final known movements. Her parents, Drew and Joyce Kessie, launched an independent investigation, refusing to let their daughter's story fade. Over the years, the Kessie family has refused to give up. After frustrations with the Orlando Police Department, they sued for access to case files and hired their own team of investigators. Their review uncovered missteps, photos never thoroughly analysed, tips left cold, and potential witnesses ignored. A former housekeeper even claimed Jennifer's body had been dumped in a lake, but the tip came years too late. Forensic searches of the lake turned up nothing. Despite national media attention and true crime documentaries, Jennifer's fate remains unknown. Each year, the Kessie family continues to host awareness events, hoping that even one small tip might finally break the case open. Nearly 2 decades later, the disappearance of Jennifer Kessie remains an open wound. Her face is etched into missing person posters, true crime shows, and the memories of those who loved her. She was intelligent, independent, and just beginning her life. Somewhere out there, the truth lies hidden, perhaps with the mysterious figure caught forever in that grainy footage. For her family, every day without answers is a day suspended in grief, but they press on, keeping Jennifer's story alive, because someone, somewhere knows what happened on that quiet January morning. And until that person speaks, Jennifer Kessie will remain Florida's most haunting unsolved mystery. June 4th, 2010 began like any other school day for 7-year-old Kairen Hman. Dressed in a black CSI t-shirt and his glasses, he was excited to present his science project at the Skyline Elementary School Science Fair. That morning, his stepmother, Terry Moulton Hman, took photos of him standing proudly by his exhibit. After that, according to her, they walked the hallways briefly, and she watched Kairen walk toward his classroom. That was the last time anyone confirmed seeing him. When school was dismissed that afternoon, Kairen was marked absent. He had never made it to class. By the time his parents were notified, hours had passed, and the search for Kairen began with no solid trail to follow. The response was immediate and massive. Hundreds of volunteers and law enforcement combed the forests, ravines, and waterways surrounding the school. The FBI joined the effort, yet no trace of Kairen was found, not a piece of clothing, not a single shoe print. Police interviewed staff and students, but no one had seen Kairen after the science fair. The mystery deepened. Terry's story, that she saw him walking toward class, became the subject of scrutiny. Investigators could not find anyone to confirm seeing him after that time. Surveillance systems were minimal, and no cameras captured his exit. How could a child disappear from a school in broad daylight with no one noticing? Suspicion soon turned toward Terry Hman. She failed 2 polygraph tests and was reportedly uncooperative during key parts of the investigation. Cell phone data revealed that she had driven in a circuitous route the day Kairen vanished, raising more questions. Kairen's father, Kane Hman, filed for divorce and obtained a restraining order, citing Terry's erratic behavior and an alleged murder-for-hire plot against him uncovered during the investigation. However, no charges were filed. Terry has always maintained her innocence, and without physical evidence or a confession, the case stalled. Rumours, theories, and false leads flooded in, but none brought Kairen home. Kairen's mother, Desiree Young, became the face of a relentless campaign for answers. She organised awareness events, spoke directly to the media, and pressured investigators to keep the case active. She publicly accused Terry of involvement and even filed a civil lawsuit against her, which was eventually dropped. Law enforcement continued to investigate behind the scenes, but with no body, no weapon, and no witnesses, the legal system was paralysed. The school's protocols were questioned, leading to increased safety measures statewide. But for Kairen's family, policy changes were no consolation. What they wanted was their son, or at least the truth. More than a decade later, Kairen Hman's disappearance remains one of Oregon's most haunting mysteries. Every year on the anniversary, his family gathers in silent remembrance, holding out hope. Despite the media coverage, the public campaigns, and continued investigation, there has been no resolution. Kairen would be in his 20s now, his life paused in a single moment frozen in time. A young boy with a love for science, dinosaurs, and solving mysteries became the center of one himself. Until someone speaks, or until something breaks the silence, the truth about what happened that morning at Skyline Elementary remains locked away, just out of reach. Claudia Lawrence was a 35-year-old chef living alone in the historic city of York, England. She worked early shifts at the University of York's Goodricke College, preparing breakfast for students and staff. She wasn't a celebrity, nor did she live a high-profile life. Claudia's world was modest. Routine work, a small cottage, calls to her parents, and a circle of friends who described her as loyal, bright, and occasionally guarded. On the morning of March 18, 2009, she completed her shift as usual. She texted a friend and called her mother that evening. It was the last time anyone would hear from her. What followed wasn't just a disappearance. It was a vanishing so absolute, so sudden, that even seasoned investigators were left spinning. How can a woman go missing from her home in a quiet neighbourhood with no signs of a struggle, no CCTV capture, and not a single confirmed witness? Claudia Lawrence became one of Britain's most baffling unsolved cases. On the evening of March 18th, Claudia sent her final text at 8:23 p.m. She appeared relaxed. Her bags were packed for work the next morning, her toothbrush dry, suggesting she never returned home from wherever she went that night or early morning. Police initially believed she'd left home as usual to walk to work, about 3 miles away. But she never arrived. Oddly, there was no sign of forced entry and no suggestion of a hasty departure. Her bank account was untouched, her passport still in the drawer. Most disturbing of all, her mobile phone turned off at 12:10 p.m. on March 19th. Investigators traced her last known signal to an area near York, but it offered no clues. Claudia's father, Peter, would later say, "It's like she's just vanished into thin air." The most mundane of days had become the beginning of a chilling enigma. Who was waiting for her that morning or that night? Police treated the disappearance as suspicious almost immediately. Claudia was known to walk to work via a secluded path behind her home. It was here that the investigation focused. But despite extensive searches, nothing was found. No clothing, no phone, no trace. Over time, detectives began to examine Claudia's personal life more closely. It was revealed she had relationships with several men, some of them married. This shift in tone caused controversy, with critics accusing the police of victim blaming. Still, detectives believed someone in her social circle held the key. Over the years, 9 people were arrested on suspicion of murder or perverting the course of justice. None were charged. In 2013, the case was reclassified as a suspected murder, and a full forensic reinvestigation began. Yet every trail led to a dead end. It was as if Claudia had been swallowed whole by the earth. As months turned into years, Claudia's father Peter became the face of the search. He campaigned tirelessly for missing persons reform, pushing for what would become Claudia's law, granting families greater rights in handling the affairs of missing loved ones. But for all the progress he made in Parliament, he found no peace at home. Claudia's house sat frozen in time, her untouched belongings a ghostly reminder of the woman who once lived there. Rumours occasionally surfaced. Sightings in Cyprus, a body in a canal, a woman resembling her hitchhiking. None were confirmed. In 2021, Peter Lawrence passed away without ever knowing what happened to his daughter. For many, his death symbolised the closing of a chapter, one that had never truly opened. The mystery of Claudia Lawrence endures not just because of its lack of answers, but because of how complete the silence has been. There is no crime scene, no suspect behind bars, and no body to bury. Forensic efforts, witness appeals, and even televised reconstructions have brought us no closer. In an age where almost everyone leaves a digital trail, Claudia's disappearance feels otherworldly, like she was plucked from the timeline. Was she lured out that night? Was she being watched? Did someone know her schedule down to the minute? Somewhere out there, the truth exists. And someone, perhaps someone still walking the streets of York, knows what happened. But until they speak, Claudia remains a name etched into the national memory, a reminder that people don't just vanish unless someone helps them disappear. Each of these disappearances, whether a child walking to school, a traveller never reaching their destination, or someone vanishing into the woods, remains frozen in time. For every unanswered question, there are families still waiting, detectives still haunted, and communities that never moved on. These aren't just mysteries. They're real lives interrupted. And in some corner of the world, the truth is still out there, hidden in a memory, a clue, or a silence that's gone on too long. If any of these stories touched you, or if you know something, no matter how small, don't stay silent. Speak up, share their names, keep the search alive. And if you believe these stories deserve to be told, remembered, and investigated, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell, and join us as we uncover the cases time refuses to close. Because behind every cold case is a person still waiting to be found.